During the festive season, we've been playing 3 social deduction games back to back, and I'm telling you, this isn't a simple choice. Blood on the Clocktower, Night Ultimate Werewolf, and Feed the Kraken solve the social deduction problem in completely different ways.
Yeah, we went in thinking we'd have a clear winner, and instead we're debating which one stays on the shelf. The real question is, which one should you buy, and what are you trying to get out of a social deduction experience?
Exactly. We played all 3 at different player counts, multiple sessions each, and they're almost competing in different categories. Blood on the Clocktower is the deep, cerebral, multi-night experience. Night Ultimate Werewolf is the rapid-fire party game warm-up, and Feed the Kraken? That's the middle ground with an actual board that changes how the game feels.
Let's break down what we experienced playing each one. We spent one night playing all 3 back-to-back at 8 players. With Blood on the Clocktower Trouble Brewing, the first night phase alone took longer than an entire round of Night Ultimate Werewolf. The storyteller wakes rolls sequentially, the imp chooses who to kill, the washerwoman checks if 2 players include the chef, the fortune teller gets 1 accurate and 1 false demon indication, then the undertaker, then the empath sees how many neighbors are evil.
The information density is insane. By night 2 and day 2, players have this complicated web of cross-referencing. The washerwoman said player A or B is the chef. The investigator said player C or D is the baron. Those don't overlap, so if the washerwoman is truthful, the chef is definitely in that group. But what if the washerwoman is drunk and doesn't know it? What if the poisoner corrupted the investigator's information? The storyteller manages information flow and creates strategic confusion.
Yeah, compare that to our Night Ultimate Werewolf session that same night. The app wakes everyone simultaneously. Werewolves open their eyes for 10 seconds, the seer looks at 1 player or 2 center cards, the robber swaps their role and sees their new card, the troublemaker swaps 2 other players' cards, then everyone wakes and has 3 to 5 minutes to find the werewolves. Information is sparse by design. I claimed to be the seer and said I saw Adam as a werewolf, but Adam claimed to be the paranormal investigator from Daybreak and said he'd become a werewolf if he'd seen one. Now nobody knows who's lying.
That's the genius and limitation of Night Ultimate Werewolf. With Blood on the Clocktower, you'd have 2 more nights of information gathering. You'd check if the washerwoman confirms either of us as likely roles, the empath would report on your neighbors, and truth would emerge through layers of deduction. Night Ultimate Werewolf forces you to decide on incomplete information in 180 seconds. It's pure social intuition and bluffing with minimal logic.
Then we played Feed the Kraken that same night with 8 players, and it was like a totally different game. The captain chooses a lieutenant and navigator, everyone votes to mutiny, the captain watches the crew decide if they trust them, then the lieutenant and captain each draw navigation cards secretly, pick one to keep, put it in the captain's logbook, the captain shakes it to hide who played which card, the navigator looks at both and picks one that moves the ship toward their faction's destination.
In Feed the Kraken, information emerges through navigation outcomes and map actions. We're tracking the ship's position, moving it north toward the Kraken, east toward Blue Water Bay, or west toward Crimson Cove. Every direction choice is a faction signal. If we keep moving west, you're probably a pirate reaching Crimson Cove. If you suddenly push for the Kraken, we wonder if you got converted to the cult. The game has beautiful spatial progression, creating mounting urgency. The ship gets closer to someone's win condition every round, and you see it happening.
Feed the Kraken has physical board presence that creates accountability. In Blood on the Clocktower, accusations and deductions happen through discussion. Someone claims to be the empath, you evaluate their claim based on role logic. In Night Ultimate Werewolf, same thing but compressed into 1 round. But in Feed the Kraken, your faction commitment is literally visible on the ship's position. You can't hide forever because the board doesn't lie. If we move toward the Kraken 3 times and you were in power twice, the table knows you're probably cult.
Now let's talk about complexity. Blood on the Clocktower Trouble Brewing has a 3.04 complexity weight on Board Game Geek. That doesn't sound heavy until you're teaching new players and realizing there are 13 townsfolk roles, 4 outsiders, 4 minions, and 1 demon, all with different abilities that interact. The drunk doesn't know they're drunk, so they think they're receiving true townsfolk information when they're actually receiving false information. The Scarlet Woman becomes the demon if the original demon dies while 5 or more players are alive. The investigator sends up as good to detection abilities while being evil. These stacking interactions create constantly branching decision trees.
The learning curve isn't just about memorizing abilities. Our first Blood on the Clocktower game finished in 90 minutes, but players were still asking questions about information in the middle of day 2. By game 2, people understood mechanics, but strategy didn't click until game 3, when someone pulled off a coordinated minion bluff. They had the poisoner corrupt the fortune teller's information while claiming to be the fortune teller. That's when people realized it's about psychological layering and information manipulation.
Sarcastically, One Night Ultimate Werewolf's learning curve is basically non-existent. After one round of the app narrating role wake-ups, everyone gets it. The werewolves see each other, the seer looks at a card, the robber swaps their role. You wake up, you have information, or you don't, you vote someone out. We had new players join who'd never played anything like it, and they were making solid strategic calls by round 2. But there's a hard ceiling on depth. After 3 or 4 consecutive rounds, people get bored because there's no mechanical escalation. Every round resets. The information pool never grows.
Feed the Kraken splits the difference. Learning rules took about 5 minutes. Captain picks navigator team, everyone votes mutiny, cards get picked and shuffled, the navigator chooses the direction, but understanding strategy took multiple games. Our first session, players picked cards randomly. By game 2, people realized if I'm a sailor moving east toward Blue Water Bay, I should vote to put myself in power to guarantee that direction. By game 3, they were doing cult reads based on navigation patterns and initiating mutinies to block suspected factions. Complexity builds naturally through play, which is more satisfying than Blood on the Clocktower's upfront complexity wall.
Now let's talk about what happens when you lose. In our Blood on the Clocktower sessions, when evil won, good players analyzed everything. If the Undertaker asked a different player, we'd know the Scarlet Woman was here. The Virgin should have been nominated by a townsfolk instead of the minion. There's deep post-game analysis because the game state is complex enough that small decisions cascade into victory or defeat. But here's the dark side. In one game, the storyteller's discretion in information giving felt like it tilted things toward evil. We're still unsure if it was intentional, but that storyteller discretion creates fairness questions.
With One Night Ultimate Werewolf, losing feels more like information just didn't break your way that night. I lost because the Tanner hid among werewolves and nobody suspected them, so the Tanner won alone and we all lost. It was totally fair, completely understood after the fact, but there's zero post-game analysis depth. You can't strategically improve because there's no strategy to improve. You either got lucky with information or you didn't. Speed and accessibility come at the cost of strategic depth.
Feed the Kraken loss analysis is different. We lost because we were sailors getting outmaneuvered by pirates who knew each other and coordinated mutinies perfectly. Post-game, we realized we should have had a third sailor initiate a mutiny earlier to break their power block. It's strategic but less complex than Blood on the Clocktower's information web. You're analyzing alliance management and voting mechanics rather than role interactions. All three have post-game analysis, but they analyze totally different decisions.
Player count is massive because these games don't scale the same way. We played Blood on the Clocktower at 6, 8, and 11 players. At 6 active players plus 1 storyteller, Blood on the Clocktower felt anemic. You only have 5 people generating information, and evil lacked cover options. The demon could use process of elimination too easily. At 11 players, it was amazing. Information was dense, discussion phases got chaotic in the best way, ghost votes mattered more, but playtime hit 120 minutes.
One Night Ultimate Werewolf lives in the 5 to 8 player sweet spot. We tried it at 4 players and it felt too random. Fewer role possibilities mean luck dominates. At 10 players, people couldn't talk enough to bluff properly. At 6 to 7 players, One Night Ultimate Werewolf sings. Everyone gets speaking time, information stays scarce enough to create tension, 10-minute rounds mean nobody's bored. But after 4 consecutive rounds at 8 players, people wanted something with more weight. The rapid reset was both a feature and limitation. Perfect as a warm-up, but as a main event, people got restless.
Feed the Kraken shines at 7 to 9 players. We played our best game with 8 players.
3 factions with balanced sizes, 4 sailors, 3 pirates who knew each other, 1 cult leader. At that count, factions are large enough to create uncertainty, but small enough that information gathering is meaningful. Below 7 players, information density drops and mutinies become chaotic rather than strategic. We tried a 6-player game where pirates dominated through coordination alone. At 10 to 11 players, the game gets mechanically awkward. The hand-holding during cult recruitment, where everyone closes their eyes and the cult leader taps someone, is tight with 8 people and cramped with 11.
So strategically, Blood on the Clocktower is pure information architecture. You build a logical worldview from asymmetric data sources and validate it through psychological reads. Night Ultimate Werewolf is pure social intuition. You have seconds to evaluate whether someone's bluffing. Feed the Kraken is alliance management meets spatial strategy. You track faction positions, read navigational intentions, decide when to mutiny. These are legitimately different games.
Component quality is completely different. Blood on the Clocktower comes in a beautiful box that folds open into the storyteller's grimoire, a tracking sheet with slots for character tokens and reminder tokens. It's premium, 99 unique character tokens with custom artwork, a proper town square board, voting tokens, life markers. It's gorgeous and functional. The grimoire design is smart. Storytellers track everything without running back to the rulebook. Table presence for regular players is minimal though. You're mostly sitting and talking, not manipulating board state.
Night Ultimate Werewolf is minimalist by design. Deck of roll cards, small tokens, free app handles everything. The cards are thick, good quality, but there's 0 board presence. You're staring at people's faces and gesturing. It's pure social game. Setup takes 2 minutes, teardown takes 30 seconds. Portability is insane. You could play Night Ultimate Werewolf literally anywhere. Feed the Kraken splits the difference beautifully. Gorgeous 2-sided board with maritime artwork, quick journey map on one side for first games, long journey map for experienced players. Physical ship miniature moves across the board, an actual captain's logbook players physically open, shuffle cards inside and close. Gun tokens for mutiny voting, character cards with one-time use abilities.
The captain's logbook is mechanically brilliant. It's not just flavor, it's a functional game component. The cards get shuffled inside and the navigator can't see who played which card, creating real information asymmetry that matters. I was captain, opened the logbook, saw the 2 cards my lieutenant and I played, and had to pretend I didn't know which was which when I'd watched my lieutenant pick their card. Physical manipulation creates meta bluffing layers that Blood on the Clocktower doesn't have, because everything there is abstract information tracking.
Blood on the Clocktower's component production is premium but irrelevant to gameplay. You're paying $135 to $170 for a game that's 90% discussion and 10% token management. The grimoire is beautiful, but players don't see it. Night Ultimate Werewolf at $25 is incredible value. You get hours of replayability for dinner's price. Feed the Kraken at $35 to $60 gives board presence justifying mid-range pricing. Each game's philosophy matches its design.
The player's sacrifice is real for Blood on the Clocktower. One player can't participate in normal gameplay. They manage the grimoire and make discretionary information calls. If your group has 6 people, you're only playing with 5 active deduction participants. That's a mathematically tight. With Night Ultimate Werewolf and Feed the Kraken, everyone plays normal roles. The app moderates Night Ultimate Werewolf so the moderator doesn't spend mental energy. Feed the Kraken rotates the captain role every round so everyone gets semi-power. But Blood on the Clocktower needs a dedicated, experienced storyteller. That's a real constraint for casual groups.
Let's talk about moment-to-moment fun, because that's where preference gets personal. Our favorite Blood on the Clocktower memory was someone pulling off the drunk claiming to be fortune teller bluff. They made tactical claims matching what a fortune teller would know, built credibility through early analysis, and the good team almost voted with them before someone noticed a logical inconsistency in their phrasing. Watching the town realize they'd almost been manipulated by a drunk who built a perfect false narrative was incredible. That multi-day information puzzle is chef's kiss.
Our favorite Night Ultimate Werewolf memory is completely different. Someone claimed to be the Tanner, the solo win role, and openly campaigned to be voted out. The table was paralyzed because if the Tanner was truthful, voting them out meant we lose. If they were lying and actually a werewolf, we needed to vote them out. We debated for 2 minutes, voted them out, they revealed as Tanner and won alone. everyone lost. It was funny for 30 seconds, then we realized the Tanner mechanic makes the game feel arbitrary after repeated plays.
Our favorite Feed the Kraken memory was watching a cult recruitment reframe the entire game. We had this player we'd trusted as a sailor for 3 full rounds. Good navigation choices, voting patterns made sense, alliance building seemed logical. Then a cult uprising triggered and the cult leader tapped them. On round 5, that player's strategy completely inverted. They supported moves toward the Kraken instead of Blue Water Bay. Suddenly, all their prior actions looked suspicious. We debated whether they'd been secretly signaling toward cult or genuinely got flipped. That retroactive reinterpretation is unique to Feed the Kraken.
Let's talk about replayability. Blood on the Clocktower has 3 complete editions with different role sets. Trouble Brewing is beginner-friendly, Bad Moon Rising is intermediate, Sects and Violets is advanced. Each has 15 to 20 roles. That's 99 unique characters across 3 editions. We played Blood on the Clocktower regularly for 6 weeks and never felt like we'd exhausted role variety. Storyteller discretion varies too. 2 games with the same 10 roles feel completely different depending on which players get poisoned or drunk.
Night Ultimate Werewolf has high replayability within a single session. Play 4 to 6 rounds back-to-back in an hour, but diminishing returns across multiple sessions. After 10 to 15 total games, role interactions become predictable. You know what the paranormal investigator does, how the troublemaker changes the game, what the Tanner attempts. The expansions add new roles, but don't fundamentally change the format. Night Ultimate Werewolf works best as a recurring party game or warm-up, not as a long-term committed investment.
Feed the Kraken is the middle ground. The 3-faction system creates inherent variability. No 2 games play identically because pirates know each other while sailors don't, and the cult leader recruits mid-game. The game includes quick journey and long journey maps for difficulty scaling. We played Feed the Kraken 6 times and felt like we were still discovering strategy nuances. By game 7, we understood core tactics, but faction distribution randomness kept things fresh.
Here's the core tension. Blood on the Clocktower is objectively best if you want deep strategic gameplay, but it's not the best buy for most groups. The $135 to $170 price tag, storyteller sacrifice, 90 to 120-minute commitment, and the learning curve requiring multiple sessions create friction. Night Ultimate Werewolf is perfect as a warm-up, not a main event. Feed the Kraken splits the difference. Mid-range price, no player sacrifice, tighter runtime, accessible learning curve, enough strategic depth to justify repeated plays.
But here's where we disagree, which matters for listeners. Eve thinks Feed the Kraken is buy this, and I'm conflicted. If my group is serious about social deduction and willing to invest in mastery, I'm buying Blood on the Clocktower and finding a good storyteller. Yeah, the price is high, but the ceiling is way higher. If my group is casual and just looking to have fun, Feed the Kraken hits the sweet spot.
That's exactly why Feed the Kraken is the better buy this, not that recommendation. You're assuming someone has a dedicated, experienced group ready to commit to Blood on the Clocktower's depth. Most people don't. Most want a game that works at 7 to 9 players, finishes in 45 to 60 minutes, teaches in 5 minutes, and gives something to think about strategically. Feed the Kraken does all that. Blood on the Clocktower requires an experienced storyteller and groups of 8 to 12 committed to 2+ hours and multiple sessions.
Fair, but Blood on the Clocktower's depth payoff is infinite. Our 6th game was infinitely more fun than our 6th Feed the Kraken game because players understood psychological layers and executed multi-night deception plans. Blood on the Clocktower creates emergent storytelling where false narratives collapse and conspiracies unravel over days. That's irreplaceable. But you're right, it requires serious commitment up front.
Exactly. So here's our verdict. If you're a casual group playing once a month wanting a solid 45 to 60-minute experience with no learning barrier and no player sacrifice, buy Feed the Kraken. If you're a party crowd wanting rapid-fire chaos and multiple games per night, buy Night Ultimate Werewolf. 10-minute rounds and 0 learning curve make it perfect. At $25, it's insanely cheap for dozens of nights.
But if you're a serious gamer loving optimization, psychology, and deep strategic puzzles with a group committed to long-term play, buy Blood on the Clocktower. Yeah, it's $135 to $170 and demands a storyteller, but the role interactions create something Feed the Kraken can't. Blood on the Clocktower is the game you play weekly for 6 months and still discover new tactical depths.
The honest take is Blood on the Clocktower is objectively best, but Feed the Kraken is best by this for most groups. One Night Ultimate Werewolf is essential if you host regular game nights. 3 games, 3 completely different purposes. If forced to choose one, it depends entirely on your group's commitment level and how many hours you'll dedicate to mastery.
After all those sessions, we're keeping all 3. Blood on the Clocktower stays for serious nights with 8 to 10 dedicated players. One Night Ultimate Werewolf pulls out at every game night start as a 15-minute warm-up. Feed the Kraken is what we reach for when we want solid social deduction without the storyteller sacrifice or 2-hour commitment. They're solving different problems. Forced to pick one, I'm picking Blood on the Clocktower and finding someone who can storytell. Eve's picking Feed the Kraken for practicality.
Yeah, context matters more than this one is objectively best. Blood on the Clocktower shines with committed groups. Feed the Kraken shines with casual regular play. One Night Ultimate Werewolf shines as a party opener. All 3 are legitimately good at what they do. We discovered all 3 solve the social deduction game in ways appealing to different preferences. That's actually better than having one dominant game because more people find something they love.
Thanks for hanging with us while we geeked out about these 3. We're Board Game Critique, and we'll see you in the next one where we probably obsess even longer about something equally niche.